Helluva Boss, once a murder comedy, now known as Walmart Yaoi, or as I like to say, Helluva Boss, a shit show packaged as medieval demon propaganda. We all have heard how it started, an indie show loved for its raunchy humor, complex characters, and interesting storylines. But then of course, season 2 happened and it all derailed from there. From bad representation of women, the will they won't they of Stolas and Blitzo, and of course, the amazing characters that do not get enough screen time. Honestly, what a roller coaster. But that wasn't what intrigued me about the show, but instead it was its lore and how demons are represented in our media. Sup nerds, it's me, Luciana, your local internet parasite, and today we're going to be talking about demons, bad writing, and how it all relates to medieval times. Do you know how Demonology started? How it relates to the beautiful shit show that is Helluva Boss? And why is it important to know history? Well, that's why I'm here, aren't I? So sit back, relax, get yourself a cup of coffee or tea, and let's get into it. To understand the medieval times, we first need to acknowledge that the medieval times, or Middle Ages as they are known, first started in the 400s and then ended in 492 at the start of colonization. As this period is so long, I'm going to be grabbing highlights from the start of the Middle Ages all the way until the end of the Middle Ages. So this is not really a deep dive into the Middle Ages or the medieval times. In the early Middle Ages, the concept of demon wasn't exactly malevolent, but instead was the word used to describe the helpers of gods from pagan religions. Depending on the god, they were helpers from there could be good, bad, or just perfectly neutral. It wasn't until the word demon was, well, demonized, pun intended, in the rise of the Catholic Church in the Middle Ages. The word was used to describe fallen angels, which as seen in the Bible is the angels that fell from heaven with Satan himself. Colloquially, as pagan religions were demonized, the church used the word demon to refer to these pagan gods and helpers, describing them as malevolent, sinful, and of course, deceitful creatures from hell. In the Bible, older translations do not use demon to describe fallen angels, but in newer translations, the word demon is used. So it depends on your Christian denomination, how much your emphasis on the word there is. Plus, as we know, Bible translations are complicated and have been changed in the pursuit of power over the centuries. So I prefer not to open that can of worms. As an example, in my denomination of Christianity, demons aren't real. And even if they are, they're not responsible for your sins. Your sins are a consequence of your human free will that was granted to you by God. So all you can do is really just blame yourself. You're welcome to being human. Now that we have an idea about demons, how did demons came to be? What about demonology? After all, the word demon became a study itself. This is where it relates to our show, Helluva Boss. In demonology, we learn about different races of demons. Imps, succubi, even the Ars Goetia. And these are the races that we see very much prevalent in the show of Helluva Boss. But where did VC Pop get these creatures from, and where exactly did it all start? Well, I can't know for sure exactly what VC Pop read, whether it was a book or an article that inspired her, but I can show you all the start of where the term of demonology started and what we can learn about it. I present to you Demonology, a book written by no one other than King James I, King of England. Now, this book was published right after the Middle Ages, in the Tudor period of England, which is when King Henry VIII and the sixth wife happened. But in some places of Europe, it was still the Middle Ages, so I will consider it a late Middle Ages book for the sake of consistency. Now, while this book was not exactly from the Middle Ages, it takes a lot of references from the Middle Ages, including texts of necromancy, witchcraft, and also the reason why King James I believed that witches should be hunted, which of course started the witch trials. But one of the things that stood out to me was his beliefs on the supernatural. As we know, the Tudor era was written art depictions of demons, imps, and many little devils, which were supposed to be the reason of temptation to sin, some of which are repetitions of the art we see in the Middle Ages of these devils, which we can see were imps, succubus, incubus, and even demons that made lesbians in the medieval times. Honestly, I would love if the reason that I was gay was because a flamboyant demon with its face on its crotch told me to be gay and do crimes. Kind of funny if you ask me. But there is only so much we can add from the book of Demonology. After all, there are a lot of connections between Helluva Boss and Dante's Inferno. You see, Inferno was a 14th century comedy written by Dante Alighieri, or Dante as he's known. It's depicted a complex society in hell and the many saints and creatures in it. Creatures that are much more sought after in the show, and they are much more written in depth. We see mentions of Cerberus, the three-headed hound, demons, the rings of hell, which are prevalent in Helluva Boss, and much more. So let's expand a little more on the demons we see. Now, let's talk about demons. In the Hellverse, there's many demons and hierarchies. Whilst the show is very lore heavy, I believe that these hierarchies that we see in the show can be connected to the hierarchies that we see in the Middle Ages, and even life as we know it. Hierarchy, just like today, was very embedded in the medieval times. Specifically, monarchy was the main source of society in those times. This is very interesting because even though the monarch or the king or queen were the one in the highest amount of power, they didn't hold all the power, but instead it was the Pope who held all the power over society. In Helluva Boss, we see the similarities with the hierarchies that are in hell. For example, at the top, we have Lucifer, who is sort of like the king and ruler of hell. Yet, he isn't the one with the most power, but instead is heaven the one who has power over him and all the demons in hell. The way that hell is envisioned in Helluva Boss is sort of how hierarchies worked in the medieval times, where the ultimate person who had power was the one who was in charge of religion. In this case, the hypothetical god of the Hellverse. I also would like to mention that in season 2, we learned that Lucifer doesn't actually hold that much power over the sinners. As the sin of pride, his punishment is that he will never be able to rule over the sinners in hell, which is why I think it's very interesting that, heaven is the one in power at the end of the day in hell.
So, you think you could go over and smite him or something?
Oh, sorry. Oh, Anastasia. I'll let you in on a little secret. I cannot smite him. No, it's kind of part of the whole hell thing. You see, it isn't just a place, it's a punishment. And mine is that I'm stuck here with all these sinners, can't kill them, can't do nothing with them, so I just have to ignore them. They are all mega gross and not a single one of them has good taste in musical theater.
Now, let's look more into the hierarchies of hell and what I've noticed from each and every person and compare them to the ones in the medieval times. The 7 deadly sins are like the lords in the Hellverse. If you don't know what lords are, in the medieval times, lords were the higher-ups after the king who took care of taxing the lower classes as well as managing them for the king, divided by sections of the land. The sins are the most powerful creatures after Lucifer and his family and rule above everyone else. They represent the sins we all know: lust, gluttony, greed, sloth, wrath, and envy. The sins are represented by characters in the show. Some mentions are Mammon, the sin of greed, Beelzebub, the sin of gluttony, and Asmodeus, the sin of lust. One of the most interesting relationships in the show is the relationship between Asmodeus and, as he is called, Aussie or Fizzerolli or Fizz. These two are one of the most interesting relationships, and I think are supposed to be the good outcome that a relationship between classes can happen. Also, they're just super cute.
So, besides my whole scary hostage thing, how was your day?
Well, I was stuck with Stolas the whole time, who, by the way, asked me to give him one of my crystals as a gift for that guy you hate. So, I told him no.
The Goetia are one of my favorite classes in the Hellverse, because while not exactly lords, they count as the noble class. The noble class in the medieval times represented the families that were close to the king or extended family of the lords. The Ars Goetia are basically a representation of that. Some characters that represent them are Stolas, Stella, Paimon, and Androphilos, and of course, Vasago. The reason why I love the Goetia is quite literally because they work as a hierarchy within a hierarchy. Stolas is the prince of the Goetia, who was expected to have an heir with Stella. My little conspiracy theory is that before Lucifer was sent to a hell, the Goetia were originally rulers of hell, but nevertheless, that is just my own personal theory. We see the struggle of Stolas, and we can understand the expectations that the Goetia have and also the classism there is amongst them. As an example, the Goetia have imps around them, but they're merely servants and even stress toys for them. They're not even treated in a humane way at all. We also see the struggle of this class with the love story between Stolas and Blitzo. Stolas loses it all, his class, his power, everything, all simply because Blitzo is an imp. It was a dark time for the Yaoi Nation, honestly.
Stolas, I hereby strip you of your status, your power, and your title.
Yes! Yes! Yes!
For the next 100 years.
Oh, motherfuck!
Imps are the bottom class of hell. They are the peasants of hell. Peasants in the medieval times represented those who worked in the land and worked as servants and did miscellaneous jobs. But in the Hellverse, the imps are the main characters of the show. Characters like Blitzo, Moxie, and Millie are the ones with most screen time, even if Millie needs more development. But what makes them interesting is how they come through. Just because they're imps doesn't mean that they can't succeed. After all, we can see that they have businesses and are the backbone of the society, taking on more agriculture jobs as we see with Millie's family and running entertainment jobs such as the circuses in Blitzo's family. To talk about imps, I think the best representation we have is Blitzo, who I see is the flawed character with a golden heart. Blitzo is not just evil, but flawed and hurts others due to the fear of being hurt once again. We can see this in many times throughout the show. I also find it quite ironic how he started a company which is mildly successful that is literally killing the enemies of sinners.
When you want somebody gone and you don't want to wait too long, call the immediate murder professionals. Hand grenade or cyanide will make it look like suicide. The immediate murder professionals. We do our job so well because we come straight up from hell. We'll kill your husband or your wife, we'll even let you keep the knife. We're the immediate murder profession. Kids die for free.
Especially as he grew up being a clown. Like, where and how did he learn all this mastering weaponry? Also, he was in prison, Wells.
So, what are you in for? Okay, not much of a talker, are we? I'm Blitz. The O is silent. I'm sure we're gonna get along just fine. So what's your deal? What'd you do? Who'd you diddle? You look like someone who's good with a gun. You look like someone who'd shoot up an office, and I hope you are, because I got a plan to get us out of this dump, but I'm gonna need some help. You think you can give me a hand? I need to get out to my daughter. The babysitter will kill me if I don't get back soon. You like kids? 'Cause let me tell you, they're a fucking door.
What? Hell has a prison? Hellhounds are just like imps, considered peasants. But it's a bit odd because just as peasants, they're also considered pets. So while you can put them in the same category of peasants, I would actually argue that to me they're even lower class. Specifically, they're sort of like the working animals of the medieval times, like horses. Mostly because hellhounds are, well, hounds. Luna and Vortex are two characters that represent this. The two seem to have a will they won't they in their situation, or at least that's what the shows led us to believe.
Hey! You?
Oh, hey. You're the hound working for my boss's freaky ex.
Yeah. Sorry if that's weird.
It's cool. Her beef ain't mine. I'm not paid enough to care.
Yeah. I'm Luna.
Okay. I'm Vortex!
That's hot. I mean, like, literally, because vortexes, they give off heat. Probably, right?
Yeah. I guess. But my friends call me Tex.
Oh, yeah? I wish I had friends. I mean, I don't have friends.
Am I interrupting something?
It's confusing, but yet intriguing. what Hellhounds World Society is. Because if we go by Dante's Inferno, the three-headed Hellhound is supposed to guard the gates of hell, and Vortex is a bodyguard. So I guess you could make a vague connection. But then, does this mean that we are expected Lucifer to have a three-headed Hellhound as a pet? Or even worse, all Hellhounds are somehow related to this three-headed Hellhound? Also, why are they treated like they are a subclass if at the very least they contain more power than Imps to disguise themselves as human, as we have seen in the show? You know what? I'm not here to punch holes into the show. I'm sure many people have already done so. Roll the piano. Well, it's a convoluted question, but my argument is quite simple. Flawed characters are interesting to look at, and while the medieval times were very messy and had a lot of hierarchies embedded into them, I feel like Helluva Boss itself is also very interesting because of the flawed characters it contains. We can see the corruption in the Middle Ages / medieval times, from the art that lacks expansion, the messy anatomy, and the little nicks at the monarchy. Helluva Boss includes this flawedness, from their messy lives and interesting storylines, their quote-unquote interesting character designs, and on top of that, how it almost seems that there's a lack of thought when it comes to the show. And this is why it makes it so fun to look at and pick at it. This reminds me of the many flawed characters and shows that many people have grown fond of. Take examples as BoJack Horseman, the Joker, heck, even Rick Sanchez. They're fun even if they're major fucking assholes, and their storylines are flawed and sometimes don't even make sense. Personally, I'm a huge fan of the Hellverse, even if it doesn't make sense and it's messy towards the end of the day. One thing that also really interested me was the history that was intended with it. When we look into Dante's Inferno, we see a lot of similarities in the show, and I think also that Vivsipop was heavily inspired by Dante's Inferno, but we can't not know for sure. We can also look into the biblical history and the biblical characters that are included in Hazbin Hotel to expand more on the Hellverse and Helluva Boss, but that's a video for another day. Personally, I feel like Helluva Boss is sort of like trash TV. It's bad, it's not the most coherent, but hell if it's entertaining. Plus, I like watching gay people make a mess out of themselves in the pursuits of love, so.
When I'm lonely, I become hungry. And when I become hungry, I want to choke on that red of yours, your and lick all of your before taking out your and with more teeth until you're screaming like a fucking baby.
Can you blame me for liking this horrid mess? Now, I hope that you enjoyed watching the video. Or not, I don't really care. Thank you for watching, and remember, stay bright.